Good morning and happy Friday. And look, it's still cold and flu season, but that's not stopping us from bringing you the news this week. So today on CityCast Las Vegas, I'm here with Nevada Independent Opinions Editor Andrew Corrali and our very own executive producer Layla Mohammed. And we're talking about the governor's race heating up with the first major ad campaign of the year, and it's a mudslinger, CCSD's drastic new budget cuts, and the single life in Las Vegas. Why is it so hard to date here? It's Friday, February 13th. I'm Sonia Cho Swanson, and here's what Las Vegas is talking about. All right, Andrew, Layla, good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning, y'all.
So before we get into today's show, I've got some really exciting news for you. Tomorrow and every Saturday from here on out, you're going to get to see something a little extra, a little something special in your podcast feed. And that is because, drumroll please, Andrew, Layla, thank you, CityCast is launching a new show. Ba-ba-ba-ba-bow. And if you're obsessed with cities like we are, you're going to love this. It's called Your City Could Be Better. And our CityCast CEO, David Plotz, is sitting down every week with different hosts and producers from the CityCast network. I will be on the show sometimes. Layla will be on the show sometimes. You'll hear hosts from across the network. And David and this guest will talk about the things our cities are trying as we grow and change, what we're doing right and wrong, the weird things that cities are trying, surprising successes. So there's some hot topics we might cover, like, the Tesla tunnels, or maybe like the Sphere as a national landmark, right? Maybe dog poop crises or office to residential conversions, bike lanes, tensions with the federal government. We're going to cover it all. So here's the sneak preview for you guys, because I know you guys like a little sneak preview. Mm-hmm. The guest for the first episode is Sean McPherson from Twin Cities, and he's talking about how the resistance in Twin Cities organized and the many shapes it took, from grocery deliveries for immigrants scared to leave home to active engagement with ICE agents. Very timely. Layla, anything else you want to add?
Yeah, we hear from listeners that you love those special episodes we do with all the CityCast hosts. And this is a way to bring you more of that. We're building a network of passionate locals who care about their cities. And we know we have a lot to learn from each other and connect those cities together.
So true.
The first episode is already out on YouTube and in your City Could Be Better podcast feed. Or just check back here on CityCast Las Vegas tomorrow. We'll be dropping the latest episode in this feed every Saturday.
So check it out. Check out Your City Could Be Better wherever you get podcasts, on YouTube, and on this show feed as well. And let us know what you think. All right. Well, Andrew, Layla, before we get into it, I just got to say, I feel like when you have a cold, your voice needs to be measured in hours at Dottie's. So like the longer the hours, the hoarser your voice.
Sonia, you don't know how much it warms the cockles of my heart to hear a Dottie's reference this early in the podcast.
I know.
Thank you for that. Thank you for that.
Every time I say the word Dottie's, I think about you, Andrew. This is like,
awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're currently a 7 on the Dottie's index. So
Thank you.
kudos.
That's what I figured. Yeah, solid 7. All right, well, let's get into our first topic. The governor's race is heating up. The election is, of course, in November, but there's a new attack ad out. Andrew, tell us all about it.
Yeah, campaign season in Nevada is kicking off with a bang. Better Nevada, a PAC supporting Governor Joe Lombardo's reelection, unveiled this ad on Monday, and it attacked Democratic Attorney General and gubernatorial candidate Aaron Ford for his, quote, high-flying out-of-state travel. And the ad, it attempts to paint Ford as this sort of globe-trotting dandy who's out of touch with Nevada issues. As far as attack ads go, these days, it's actually fairly tame and kind of lightly comical. Images of Ford in a straw hat and a bow tie, and there's postcards and zipping planes. But the meat of the ad is based on this analysis of Ford's official calendar of 2024. And the Review-Journal did this analysis of his travel, and it determined that Aaron Ford was out of Nevada for 137 days that year. And so the Lombardo camp and the Republicans are, really sort of zooming in on this as a possible vulnerability going into November.
Wow, interesting. So I'm just curious. I mean, this is obviously the first volley of the year, right? What does this ad tell us about the Lombardo campaign strategy? And do you think it'll hit home with Vegas voters?
Yeah, great questions. I say that this ad says a number of things.
Hmm.
The first thing that jumps out to me is that it's a seven-figure spend,
Mm,
and to me, that's a pretty significant figure. And the fact that this is being deployed relatively sort of early in the campaign, I think that means that the Republicans are taking Ford, seriously as a possible threat.
hmm
Public polls show Lombardo with a slight lead and a lot more money. As of January, I think he had 15 million in his account versus Ford's 2.2 million. Um, in competitive campaigns, slight, means too close for comfort. Whether it'll hit home with Nevada voters, I feel like, the Republicans seem to think that Ford's travel and his purported, out of touchness will be a meaningful vulnerability. When I look at the ad, I'm not so sure myself. And Ford seems to have like a reasonable explanation for a lot of this travel. And he's part of, conversations and issues that cross borders and cross state lines, whether it has to do with, labor, human trafficking, cybercrime. So his response, sounds reasonable. But again, this is just the start. Who knows what future ads will be about? I suspect that Lombardo is going to really focus on buttressing and reinforcing his conservative bona fides. But this is sort of the shot across the bow.
Yeah. What's your take, Layla?
Yeah, I agree that this big ad spend this early on really is pitting Ford as the main competitor against Lombardo. And I think when we take into account Nevada's voting base, it's going to be decided by independent voters, moderate voters, and the outcome of each candidate's base. And I think this ad does target the independent and moderate voters who might not look into, okay, what was Ford doing when he was traveling a third of the year? When I saw
Right.
the ad, I was like, okay, that is a lot of time spent outside of the state. And when I looked at the Review Journal reporting, originally looking at his calendar, it doesn't go into, France, Macau, Singapore, Mexico, Taiwan were all spent at Attorney General Alliance and the
Interesting.
National Association of Attorney Generals sponsored trips.
Yeah.
Made me think like, okay, what are those groups doing sending attorneys generals to France and Macau and all of that?
That's a great question.
So voters might not understand that. Voters might not understand.
Well, certainly. And Layla, the ad paints it as vacation. Like all the imagery in the ad looks like, straw hat. Like it looks like he's sort of a dilettante, globetrotting dilettante.
Yeah.
And they had this, I think there was a inflatable flamingo that made a cameo.
Yeah, they put a hat on him. It seemed like he was like spending a third of the year on vacation. But like you pointed out, Andrew, a lot of these trips were to tackle challenges across state lines and international crimes and other issues that will help him do his job as Attorney General. But that's not, if I was just a moderate voter, an independent voter, just normally in Nevada, I might not do that research, and seeing the ad might make me wonder like, okay, this guy isn't spending a lot of time in state.
Yeah. But you said something really interesting about independent voters. And I'm reading a lot about the rising prevalence of people, sort of claiming, independent status when it comes to their registration.
Yeah. We have more independents in Nevada than people registered with a party.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But I'm also reading things about people are getting tired of this, incredibly like claustrophobically hyper-partisan atmosphere, and people are starting to react against that. And I think the reigning sort of truism about attack ads or negative ads is that, yes, they fuel the toxic hyper-partisan atmosphere that we all complain about, but they're effective. So too bad, so sad. But I was actually doing some research on this, and I'm not an expert in it by any means, but a lot of studies are ambivalent about attack ads, and I think the picture is changing. And some studies show that they work, some show they have little effect, but some I read show that attack ads can actually have the opposite effect if one thing happens. That is, if viewers actually research the specific claims that a given ad, puts forth, and people can debunk it or just contextualize it, and it actually, sort of, defuses the
or there's
the
backlash effect, right?
So it's a fascinating thing. So I think the sort of received wisdom about attack ads is maybe changing, and so I think that'll be interesting to see in the context of the upcoming election.
All right, well, let's move on to our second topic. Some CCSD budget cuts are making the headlines. Layla, what's going on there?
Yeah, so according to Spencer Levering at the Las Vegas Review-Journal, Clark County School District will have about $50 million less to fund schools for the 2026-2027 school year compared to this year, mainly due to declining enrollment and rising costs like employee pay increases. In Nevada, most public school funding follows the students. That means when enrollment drops, districts automatically receive less money. Lower birth rates, families moving out of the state, and students choosing charter or private schools have all contributed to enrollment declines in recent years, shrinking the overall funding pool for Clark County School District. Because of that funding drop, the Review-Journal also reports that more than 1,200 employees have been identified as surplus. That means their current positions are not built into next year's school budget. That list includes teachers, licensed professionals, support staff, and some administrators. District officials say principals created their school budgets knowing funding would decrease, so these staffing reductions were anticipated. While some employees may be reassigned to other open positions when people retire or resign, not every role is guaranteed to remain. Currently, there are 595 vacant positions for those 1,200 surplus employees. Yeah.
Wow. So that's going to be like a Thunderdome.
Yeah. Oof. Hunger Games for teachers. Yikes.
Exactly.
And isn't being a teacher just Hunger Games already?
Right.
It's Hunger Games bonus round.
Oh my God, fight for your job. You know, it's so interesting because I remember last year we were talking about all these hiring shortages at CCSD. I mean, it was teachers, it was bus drivers, it was support staff, I mean, counselors. There was apparently such a need for more staff. And now all of a sudden we're cutting staff. I mean, how do we explain this cognitive dissonance, right?
Yeah, I think it feels contradictory, but it's not that contradicting, actually. When the district talked about teacher shortages, it usually meant shortages in specific subject areas like math, science, special education, or shortages at hard-to-staff schools. It doesn't necessarily mean there weren't enough teachers overall. And now that enrollment is declining, and in Nevada, funding follows the student, so when fewer students enroll, the district receives less money. And that means fewer funded positions, even if one certain school or certain subjects still struggle to fill openings. So there's that mismatch issue. You might have more teachers in one subject area than current enrollment supports while not having enough in another subject that requires a different license. To add to that, the end of temporary COVID relief funds and rising operational costs, and the district has less flexibility than it did a few years ago. So both things can be true at the same time. There can be real shortages in specific areas and overall staffing cuts because money just isn't there.
Oh, wow. Okay. Interesting.
Did I read in that story that the average pay for teachers is north of 100K now?
125K is what I saw.
Yeah, they're including benefits in that.
Okay.
So that average,
so it's like a value estimation. Got it.
Exactly.
I mean, ray of sunshine. I was just happy to see that figure jump out at me that suggested that teachers are getting paid a bit more nowadays.
Yeah, in the 2023 legislative session, there was a lot of pressure on school districts to increase teacher pay. And so we're seeing that increase, but, budget cuts and low student enrollment is kind of playing against that right now.
I've always low-key resented this aura around teaching that it's a vocation or a calling. And I always thought that kind of, right. And that sort of was an excuse to build in, not great pay because you're doing it for the kids. You're doing it for the mission. And so, that being motivated by money, as a teacher would be, bad or impure or, insincere or something like that. So I'm glad to see the teacher getting that money.
Yeah.
I think we saw a raise of something, including benefits. Layla, as you pointed out, this figure includes benefits, but the jump was something close to 25K. So from about 100K to almost 125K on average. But it was interesting. I noticed that the district actually cited these raises when they talked about this year's belt tightening. So do you think that's fair for the district to draw that line between saying hey, this is a factor and why we have to tighten our belts this year? Is this a jab at the union's efforts at getting those raises for teachers, or is it just facts?
I don't think it's necessarily a jab. I think, enrollment fell at 201 schools. So I think it's just a fact that enrollment isn't there, and per student funding is $9,000 per student. So enrollment has dropped by more than 43,000 students since the 2018-2019 school year.
Wow.
So, yeah, they're just missing a lot of those students, and that's translating into funding.
Getting less money. And then also you're saying that it's fair for them to say that their costs are higher because of the raises they've had to give teachers.
Yeah, I mean, it's operational costs. So it's great that the teachers are getting paid more. But I think if enrollment didn't decline, we'd have the funding and school districts would have the funding. And this is not just a Clark County issue. This is a state issue and a nationwide issue. Enrollment in public schools are declining. And so I don't think they're just citing teacher salaries and teacher salary increases. I think the main issue is the decline in enrollment.
Yeah. And with like the advent of school choice, kind of becoming this, sort of okay standardized, thing you can do in any state, and taxpayer funds are moving into, private schools, are moving toward, public schools. So not only are you getting sort of the so-called customer base of students, moving out, but the money is moving as well. So it's it's definitely a financial drain on public schools.
Yeah, and I mean, the district spends 2/3 of their general budget on employee salaries and benefits. So it's not that they're, blaming teachers. It's just a fact that those salaries and benefits take up a lot of the budget. And if the budget shrinks, then there's going to be less of that for other positions. And so I'm glad to see that they're not lowering teacher pay. But if the budget shrinks, they're just going to be, this belt tightening with how many they can hire. There's a hiring freeze right now in Clark County School District.
Yeah. So class sizes are going to be like 100 students.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. Well, we're wishing our students all the best, our teachers and our students all the best as they head into the second half of the school year.
Good luck in the Hunger Games, teachers.
All right, let's head into our third topic. Las Vegans are staying single, at least according to a Channel 8 article from Janelle Vanoy. This is more of a, I would say, op-ed piece or a kind of a fun, lighthearted commentary than real hard-hitting reporting.
Right.
But, there are a few stats cited here. The reporter here says that about 40% of people in the township of Paradise, which is, a big part of Las Vegas Valley, are unmarried. And her argument is that people are focused on trying to make money, the rent, the gas, the groceries, and their side hustles, and not their relationship milestones. Apparently, the average household income around here hovers closer to $70,000. And, according to one figure anyhow, a single adult in Las Vegas needs to make more than $94,000 a year just to live.
$94,000?
I know. I think
the rent is too damn high for romance.
It is too damn high. Although I will say counterintuitively, you do save a lot when you cohabitate. You know what I'm saying? I feel like actually the rising costs keep people together.
Yeah, it's hard to meet. It's expensive to meet somebody, but once you do, it becomes very cost effective. I recommend it for everybody. I've done it 3 times.
Maybe. My boyfriend would say differently. How much money he spent on dates.
Fair enough. So anyways, this piece argues that Las Vegas residents aren't staying single because they can't find someone. They're staying single because independence feels easier, cheaper, and way more aligned with the lifestyle. I don't know.
Yeah.
Do y'all agree?
Yeah, and I mean, and I think it brought up the the whole notion that Vegas is a 24-hour town, people working crazy shifts, but I totally see the affordability thing because between rent, car payments, and all that kind of stuff, it's like where do you have the time, let alone the money to go out on them dates? But so it makes a certain anecdotal and intuitive sense. And Vegas is it's a buffet of options, and not just in terms of like things to do, but in communities to interact with and people to meet. So I do wonder if Vegas is its own little weird romantic snow globe when it comes to dating dynamics, for sure.
Yeah, I think so. I see your point, Sonia, where it is cheaper to cohabitate in a lot of scenarios, but it's all that courting process, it takes a lot of money
to get to the point to be able to say, I'll move in with you.
Exactly.
Yeah. Second, third date, maybe? No.
Right. But I don't know. It does feel really expensive as a single person in Las Vegas. So I can definitely see people focusing on their careers instead of focusing on that courtship.
Yeah. I've been seeing too, it's actually national trends. There was some Pew Research that came out a few years ago that said like, not only the number of people who are married, but also the number of people who cohabitate, actually live together, has really dropped significantly in the last few years. And we're just seeing a rise of singledom across the country. So it's, the trends are bearing fruit in Vegas, maybe even more so here.
Yeah, I mean, going back to our previous story, there are like birth rates are declining. So I think you can see it across the board. People are, the traditional like family makeup is kind of just not appealing to a lot of people.
I will attest from personal experience, babies are expensive. They are very expensive. It's true.
Yeah.
Fancy babies.
Yeah, the fancy babies. All right. Let's let's all be honest here. The three of us are all booed up, right? So we have single friends in Vegas though. So let's all share our most unhinged dating advice for our single friends in Vegas.
Yeah. Right. So I spent a lot of time, I will say, on the dating apps in Las Vegas.
You've been through it, Layla.
Yeah,
you know what it's like out there.
I've been in the trenches. I've been there.
That's the real Hunger Games, Andrew. Is dating in Vegas.
Exactly. Yeah.
So I will say, like, the biggest issue with dating in Vegas are the tourists. It is very hard to filter through tourists. Like, I wish there was like some kind of filter or tab that says like get rid of tourists on Vegas dating apps.
Because you don't have to report yourself as a visitor, right?
No, and I've seen a lot of people not say anything
or lie. People lie
with my friends, or even like I'll be on a date and that's when I learn that they're a tourist. And it's honestly terrifying sometimes. So my unhinged dating advice would be to verify residency, whether that's through a background check,
voter ID, a voter ID law for dating.
Voter IDs, exactly. Make sure they're civically engaged in your community. But yeah, do whatever you need to do to verify residency, because the tourists will try to deceive you.
Oh, yeah, that makes sense. Yeah. I just love the phrase verify residency.
We need it's that serious.
That is the voter ID law that we actually need. I will say, Andrew, just having been on the dating apps in recent years, or I should say maybe several years ago, but there would be like, you could see on the apps when a certain convention was in town. Like I'd be like swiping through and be like, a lot of guys wearing aprons and baker. Oh, it's the pizza and bakers convention. Or like I'd be like, a lot of guys in like cowboy hats. Like, I love those boots. Like, it's National Finals Rodeo. Like
NFR,
you could just tell which people were in town for what convention. Or the techie nerds for CES, like a lot of like, black plastic glasses, or like people with like robots in their pictures. I don't know. It was just, you could just tell.
Yeah,
I give them credit for sticking with the theme. So yeah.
Even like, I mean, off of the dating apps, just going out. If you're just out, if you venture to the Strip to go to a bar or a club, and you're trying to talk someone up and meet someone in person, you kind of have to be like, oh, before we get in too deep, are you here visiting or do you live here?
They have to click the terms and conditions.
You got to walk in with a clipboard, Layla.
Exactly.
No, it's not serious.
I did some brief but intensive stints of dating between my 3 marriages, and I have some.
Three's a charm, Andrew. Three's a charm.
Yeah, it is. It truly is. I love you, Kim. Yeah. And I'll say this. Sort of unhinged dating advice to the dudes: when you're on a date, be a journalist. And by that, I mean, ask questions, be engaged, be nosy.
Andrew. Preach.
Yeah, be nosy in the most diplomatic and earnest way possible. Because the number one thing that I was told on dates is this. Wow, Andrew, how refreshing it is to go on a date with someone who is actually interested in me. And so it wasn't my stunning good looks, shockingly. Yeah, it was the fact that I would actually ask questions, because so many people I talked to, they would be like, I've been on so many dates with dudes and they just do not ask me anything about myself. And so, I think that's unsung advice. And my other piece of actual earnest advice is, if you're burned on dating apps, and I'm sure everybody is, don't underestimate old school affinity groups. And by that, I mean
Oh.
Oh.
book clubs, hiking
Yep.
meetups, even activist
Mm.
groups, because then you're setting the stage to meet people based on interests, to
Yeah.
based on values. And so you do a lot of the sort of the pre-gaming and figuring out if someone is even in the same sphere, so, and if you don't make they say if you don't make a partner, you make a new friend. I think that old school advice applies anew in today's, dating hellscape.
Here, here. I guess I would also say it's quasi-hinged, Andrew, in the same vein, is to make your first date as like low stakes and cheap as possible.
Amen.
Because
Yeah.
I feel like you can kind of tell within like the first 15 minutes of meeting someone whether you actually want to spend like the next hour or two
Mhm.
with
Yeah.
them.
Right.
So like
Yeah.
do something like, hey, you know what? I got to take my dog to like the dog park. Do you want to come with me? Or like,
Yeah.
you know what? I want to like go on a walk, take my dog for like a walk, and you can decide if it's going to be like a 15-minute walk or like a 45-minute walk. Or it's like, go to a coffee shop and it could be like a really quick coffee. Another unhinged, actually, David Figler, former host David Figler, has cited this many times as one of his most favorite unhinged pieces of dating advice I've ever suggested on the podcast. But like, there are really fun, quote unquote, ethnic grocery stores around town where you can like actually go and like eat in the food court, but it's like cheap and it's usually like not that like, you don't have to like sit there. It's not like a nice sit down formal kind of meal. You can just grab a bite. Suggest
it.
that. You'll also see how adventurous of an eater they are. You could grab some groceries on your
Yeah.
way out. You know what I mean? It's just can like, just give yourself the flexibility of making it a really short, low investment date so you can get the hell out if you're getting the bad vibes.
Yeah, I like that idea of setting up the situation as sort of an observational test to see how they
Yeah.
interact with like, purportedly exotic foods or something
Right.
like that. So yeah, I
Right.
love that.
Yeah, two things. One, I think all of our dating advice hinges on being a local. That's a big
Ah.
going back to
Yes.
the tourist. Beware
Good
the
point.
tourist. Also, I think we went pretty practical. I think these are like all really good practical dating tips. I
Yeah.
wonder if our listeners have any like unhinged
Yes.
dating tips for Las Vegas. Maybe they email us at lasvegas@citycast.fm.
Yes, please. I want to hear your most outrageous dating stories, outrageous dating advice, especially dating advice for locals.
Mm-hmm.
All right, before we go, speaking of locals, we have an amazing membership program, the CityCast Las Vegas Neighbors program. Our neighbors are our besties. And as part of their perks, they get to shout out their favorite local businesses. We do it on every single Friday News Roundup. We're actually out of member shout outs right now because we've been doing so many of them. But that's your chance. If you become a CityCast Las Vegas neighbor at membership.citycast.fm, you'll get to come to our meetups, meet the staff, meet the crew, meet other neighbors. You'll get access to live events. You'll get access to a weekly events email where you can learn about everything happening like in the city. What else, Layla? What are some amazing perks of becoming a neighbor?
Ad-free listening.
Yes.
And some CityCast Las Vegas swag. And if I can throw out a shout out of my own to kind of give
Yes.
listeners an idea, I've really been enjoying, and this is me, I said I wasn't going to talk about this on the podcast because I didn't want too many people to flood this.
Ooh,
But
gatekeeping,
every
Layla.
Tuesday night at 7 p.m., Jive Turkey has a trivia night hosted by Jason
Yes.
Harris. That has
Oh
been
yeah, I've
so
been to
fun.
that. Yeah.
Yeah, it's been like a weekly ritual for me.
Oh, nice.
And I've like met a great group of friends through that trivia night. Just showed up and joined a team, and it's kind of the highlight of my week now. I love trivia; it's been so fun and a great way to meet people.
And we love Jive Turkey too.
Yeah, Jive Turkey
Yeah.
has great drinks, great food, so definitely
Those
check them out.
chicken
Chicken
tendies.
sando.
Oh, yeah,
Yes.
chicken sando, short rib sando. Oh yeah,
Yes.
love it all.
Mm-hmm. The Cobb
That's right.
Goblin drink is
Ooh.
definitely my favorite.
Oh, I'll put that on my radar. Okay, I haven't seen
Yeah.
All right, double shout out to Jive Turkey and Jason Harris's trivia night on Tuesday nights. So if you want to shout out just like this, go become a CityCast Las Vegas neighbor at membership.citycast.fm. All right, Andrew, Layla, thank you so much for this amazing
Hey.
conversation.
it. Thank you. Always fun.
Thanks, y'all.
And that's all for today here on CityCast Las Vegas. Our executive producer is Layla Mohammed. Our roving producers this week were Lizzie Goldsmith and Zoe Culkin. Our newsletter editor is Rob Katchelreese. And I'm Sonia Cho Swanson, proud graduate of the Clark County School District. Music is by OG Moose, Epidemic Sound, and All the Kimonos. We record this show on the traditional homelands of the Nuwuvi, the Southern Paiute people. And if you enjoyed the show, why not tell a friend? Rate the show, leave us a review, and subscribe to our morning newsletter. Don't forget, you can support this show and get some great perks by becoming a CityCast Las Vegas neighbor at membership.citycast.fm. And we'll be back Tuesday morning with more news from around the city. Take care.